So you know when a friend recommends a show to you that they've been really loving and you're like, oh yeah, I'll definitely add that to the list, even though deep down you have absolutely no intention of ever actually getting around to watching it? That was me with Supernatural. This show had a big impact on my girlfriend Susan's like teenagehood and adult life now, and she has been trying to get me to watch it for so long, and I just kept resisting it because I was, how do I say this? There's no good way to say it. I was an OG Tumblr user. I remember the Mish-apocalypse. I was the Lock in Super Who Lock. She was the Super. Could I make it any more obvious? But finally she broke me and my stubbornness down, and I sat in and watched the first like 3 episodes. And you know what? I didn't like them. The show was just not for me. But she was insistent and used one of those Netflix watch party websites to sit down and watch the show with me. And I had a bunch of issues with the first season. I didn't like how episodic it was, how like just each episode felt very disconnected from the previous one. And it was just like gory fight monsters. I'm not really that much into like horror movies and definitely not into grossness. But the moment it clicked for me was the end of the first season. Spoilers in this video, by the way. If you haven't seen Supernatural, this is not the video for you. Also, Susan and I have been watching it together, and I'm only just starting season 6, so please don't spoil anything for me, thank you. Final spoiler warning, going once, twice. Okay, so, holy cow, the guy who played John Winchester can friggin' act. I specifically remember the moment that it clicked was the same moment that it clicked for Sam that wasn't really his father.
You're not my dad.
That was when I was like, okay, so they're gonna do some things with this show. I'm into this now. And of course, because it's Supernatural, the ending of the season cliffhanger, that really got me hooked, and I started to really vibe with season 2. I also really love how just blatantly obvious it is that they're filming the driving scenes in front of a green screen. I mean, that's just adorable. See, now, there was an overarching story, and that really tickled the part of my brain that had been obsessed with Moriarty in the Sherlock fandom. Another thing that I really liked about this season, at least I think it was season 2, I'm not totally sure, was, I don't like how the monsters are kind of like universally bad, and every time that the hunters have had like a flicker of doubt that maybe they're not, like every one of them is this disgusting, horrible creature bent on destroying everything, but maybe, because obviously they're intelligent and conscious, they're always shown to have been right the whole time. So I really appreciated how, like, that group of vampires was trying their best.
We don't kill humans, and we don't drink their blood. We haven't for a long time.
What is this, some kind of joke?
Notice you're still alive. We have a right to live. We're not hurting anyone.
So far, at least, I'm only like halfway through I'm not even halfway through the show. I'm only on the beginning of season 6, but they haven't really explored that up. That's a path that I wish they would go down more. Season 3 is when I felt it started to become much more self-aware. And you know what? I really liked that. The ticking time clock that was on top of Dean's head was really cool to me, and I found myself wondering what I would do in that exact situation where I knew I only had one more year left of life before an infinite time of torture. I think that's one of the reasons why I like the show so much, because like me and my brother are very close, right? And I keep seeing us in the Winchester shoes. Now season 4 is when things started to get real. Like I already mentioned how I was an OG Tumblr and like was there for the Mish-apocalypse, but here's the thing, I only knew him in GIF form. I had no idea what any of the characters of the show sounded like. Fun fact, Dean was really surprising. For some reason I thought it was gonna have a high-pitched voice. No, he definitely doesn't!
Well, should we dim the lights and sync up Wizard of Oz, Dark Side of the Moon?
Why?
What did you do during college?
Until this point in the show, I was like, oh, these are the two brothers. How in the world are they possibly going to add a third person into this group and make it feel natural? And they did that. They did that. I love Cass with all of my heart. And I definitely would be shipping Destiel if I didn't know already that it's all just queer baiting, which is a bummer. Man, I love when shows are self-aware and don't take themselves too seriously, like the convention episode.
Ja. War in every fight scene, Sam und Dina having their gun or knife knocked away by the bad guy. Why don't they keep it on some kind of bungee?
Heck, the television episode with Gabriel. Mwah! I love those.
Town to town, two-lane roads, the family biz, two hunting bros, living the lie just to get by.
But then I really love when that kind of silly show gets really serious about its story. And that's what season 4 did. We're no longer just playing with vampires and werewolves. We're talking the big boys now. The angels.
Castiel.
Raphael. Oh, I thought you were supposed to be impressive. All you do is black out the room.
And the Eastern Seaboard.
Season 5, I just kept seeing Zachariah as Woody from Psych, and that just made the whole experience even better.
Well, I've learned a lesson, all right. Just not the one you wanted to teach.
I'll just have to teach it again.
Look, I can't die. I have 43 Twitter followers who depend on me. Oh, and I have a daughter.
I love him. In fact, I love every angel that has been on screen. Especially Gabriel. Oh my gosh. Also, I was a little bit disappointed with the Michael character. I was expecting him to be more like rough like Raphael. And was a little bit let down with the battle between him and Lucifer. But season 6 started out and I immediately could tell something was off with Sam, which kind of disappointed Susan. She was hoping that I wouldn't notice and then would get more suspicious down the line. But it was like when Dean had died for 4 months and then came back, Sam rushed and like hugged him and cried, and it was a great emotional moment. But now that Sam has been gone for a year and he suddenly shows up again, he's just like, hey Dean, what's up? That's not the Sam I know. And we're gonna watch the episode that Susan says like the reason for that is revealed tonight, so I'm gonna hit you with a little bit update later. Oh my gosh, I was honestly a little bit worried that they were just gonna go with, well, hell just changes you, and Sam's reaction to it was different than Dean's. And I'm low-key glad that they didn't do that, but actually there's a reason that Sam has no soul. I have no idea how this is gonna play out, but I guess I'll see. Apparently that was my opinion of it. It's really interesting because this does not seem like my kind of show at all. I'm very naturally just like a skeptical person, don't really care for horror movies that involve the supernatural or anything like that. But what keeps me coming back to this isn't that at all. This could be a relationship about two pest exterminators. It's all about the relationships between the characters, between Sam and Dean, between them and their father, between Zachariah, Michelangelo, and obviously Cass. The show is definitely not great at following the rules that it set up for the world in the beginning of the show. Like, for example, how they can like hurt demons' bodies, and that seems to actually hurt the demons themselves, even though that was pretty well established with Meg that that's not the case. You're just damaging the person that is being possessed, not the actual demon, right? That was a whole thing. And then in later episodes, they're like burning the skin off of the bodies of the demon and don't seem to bat an eye. Guys, but it does relationships extremely well, and I really love that. Especially Bobby! Seriously, nothing bad better happened to Bobby this entire show, or I don't know what I'll do, but it won't be pretty. But you know what? Susan was right. I do enjoy this now. I'm hooked, and I don't know what the life lesson of this is. I try and add some kind of moral to the end of videos, but this is just my thoughts on the first 5 seasons, really. 5 seasons and like 5 episodes of season 6. So I maybe I'll make another one of these like 5 seasons down the line, and then 5 seasons after that, and then only 1 season after that. And also tonight, in kind of retribution, I'm going to introduce Susan to watching Sherlock and personally see for me if it holds up well now that I'm no longer like a teenager. So I guess my question for you is, did you have a super Hulock phase? And if so, give me the juicy details. And in the meantime, remember to stay positive. I think my favorite moment of the entire show, though, was when they were trying to sneak into the vampire-obsessed teenage girl's room and, like, brute force guess her password to her laptop. And then Sam asks, how many T's are there or in patent? And it gets cut off. I died.